it really was having to sit down and think to myself, okay, I'm telling myself that I don't have any skills to change my career. This is the story that I'm telling myself is that I don't have skills to switch my career. And how do I check that? How do I make sure that mm, obviously I'm not seeing everything here. And it really came down to having a stronger sense of self-worth and self-value and really being able to say, no, I can do these things. And sometimes realizing that maybe I was the one getting in my own way.
Hello and welcome to the Shift Your Day Job podcast. I'm Brittany Cates, your host and companion on this incredible journey of career transformation. Get ready for inspiring stories, valuable insights, and a roadmap to shift your mindset towards a more fulfilling professional life. In each episode, we explore the remarkable journeys of individuals who made the leap from one career to another. As we navigate through these stories together, you'll find motivation, strategies, and the confidence to pursue your dreams. Whether you're feeling stuck, contemplating a change, or just seeking a dose of inspiration, this podcast is your weekly companion. Tune in every Thursday as we uncover the secrets to shifting your day job. I'm Brittany Cates, and I'm here to guide you on your path to a more fulfilling career. Hello and welcome to the Shift Your Day Job podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Cates, and I'm so glad that you're here today. I'm excited to be interviewing my friend, Jules. She is a newer designer within our office where I currently work as a UX designer. And she has just come in with such a bright light, and she makes everybody feel like they're important, and she really wants to know how everybody's doing and who you are and what you're about. And so I really appreciate that about her. And I'm excited to learn more about her career transition story because I have a little blurb of it here and there, but it's cool to hear just the whole path. So Jules, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here with me today.
Oh, hi, Brittany. It's so nice to be here, and I'm really excited to chat with you. So, yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks. And thanks for being willing, because I know this is your first podcast episode ever to record. And so I understand that's nerve-wracking. We all have to start somewhere, though, because I didn't know what I was doing when I started.
Yes, one thing I have learned is to just do things that you have no idea how to do, because it all works out eventually.
Yeah, for sure. If you don't mind starting by telling your story and what career path were you on and how did it evolve over time to get you where you are today?
Yeah, I feel like that is such a big can of worms because it has been a ride, let me tell you. I guess we can, I feel like we're going to have to take it all the way back. When I was in school, I studied psychology. I always knew I was really interested in people and relationships and how people interacted, like what different psychology foundations and principles were really interesting to me. And I I feel like a lot of people grow up knowing exactly what they wanted to do with their lives. And I was just not really one of those people. I had a lot of ideas about things that I might be able to do, but I was just going from one step to the next, I feel, for a really long time. And so I got my degree in psychology, and my thought process was I live in this really small town in East Texas, and I want to move to Austin. And I didn't really have much of a plan except for I wanted to move. So I ended up getting a job offer at Apple as a customer support specialist. And basically first level customer support in an area called customer relations, basically chatting with people who were super upset about their experience at Apple. Honestly, I ended up staying at Apple for 5 years because they provided this space where it was very clear, next level, you're going to go to this space, next level, you're going to go to this space, next level, you're going to go to this space. And I was always very motivated and driven around moving up. And so it became a spot for me where looking back now, I was a bit in a rut and didn't know what I wanted to do. but it provided cool opportunities like management and training and educational opportunities for me. And so I stayed there for a really long time. Um, there was a point though where I decided to quit my job and work as a technical support manager back in Austin at another place. And honestly, I never would have thought to even leave Apple, but I was with someone, it was like an ex partner who was super foundational for me, honestly, in terms of growth and career stuff. And he was like, why don't you just quit and work somewhere else and make more money? And I was like, what? What are you talking about? And then I applied for a job and I got the job and raised my salary $20,000. And wow, okay, this is incredible. And so I started working there. It was absolutely terrible, Brittany. I can't even tell you how bad it was. It was the worst job I have ever had and I hope ever will have. And after 3 months of working there, I quit my job. And I was like, I had nothing lined up. I just quit. And then COVID started. So it was this really weird spot where I really had to figure out what I wanted to do with my life from there. And I wasn't even sure what skills I had at that time. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I wasn't sure what I was good at. I was struggling in terms of professional space to really understand what can I really bring to the table. But I knew that I really loved helping people interview, weirdly enough, when I worked at Apple. And I was like, I really like interviewing and I like teaching people how to interview and I like teaching people how to like ask for promotions at work and stuff like that. I just, at that moment, decided to be a career coach and I made a little website and I reached out to everyone I knew and said, hey, I'm a career coach now and I'm here to serve if you have any career things you want to chat about or problem solve or interviews that you want to go through. And I started doing career coaching. And then I found a full-time job offer doing career coaching at a company called Pathrise. And so that was my first like career transition that I realized, wow, I can actually decide to do something different and execute on it. And it all worked out. So it was a big moment for me. And I've since gone through another career transition from career coaching to design. But for me, that was the first element of really seeing that I could move forward into a new career. It's really a beautiful experience for me.
Yeah. I love that because I feel like I went through a similar experience, maybe multiple times, but it was like the last time I did it, I realized, oh, wow, look what I can do. Look what I'm capable of. And there's this idea that we don't give ourselves enough credit or we don't trust ourselves or believe in ourselves enough. But the world really is our oyster if we would just embrace that. So, yeah, I love that sharing of the realization that oh, look what I can do. Like, I can change my mind whenever I want and I'll be successful at it. So, that's really awesome.
Yeah. And I do agree that sometimes you just don't believe in yourself. And it's so hard for me to say now because now I really do believe in myself and I really think that I am capable of doing anything that I put my mind to. But at that time in my life, and I look back and it really wasn't that long ago. It was like 5 years ago, right? I'm 32 now. I was probably like 27-ish when all of this happened. And it, it really was having to sit down and think, to myself, okay, I'm telling myself that I don't have any skills to change my career. This is the story that I'm telling myself is that I don't have skills to switch my career. And how do I check that? How do I make sure that obviously I'm not seeing everything here. And it really came down to having a stronger sense of self-worth and self-value and really being able to say, no, I can do these things. And sometimes realizing that maybe I was the one getting in my own way. Or, like I said, I was just in this space where I was casually floating along in this environment, this ecosystem, right, with Apple, where I wasn't questioning really what was happening or whether I was truly satisfied with it. And the moment I started questioning that and then like digging into it more, I realized, okay, no, I really can do something about this.
Yeah. One thing that I think is interesting that you brought up is that you were encouraged at the time to just find a new job and make more money. And I think that as women, we don't always think like that, like,
Mhm.
oh, it's not that easy just to get a new job. Or I've been doing this thing for so long, like can't get another job. Or there's even this feeling, I don't know if it's just me, but of like loyalty, like
Mhm.
to the
Mhm.
people that you're with, like the people you work with or the company that you work with or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I can't just leave. What about all these other people? And I think that's really something that we have to decide. We have to decide, no, I can do whatever I want. I can trust myself and do what's best for me and not worry about all these other outside factors.
Yeah, totally. And now, as someone who's been in career coaching for a really long time, the way I look at it is I'm an asset to a company. This is not personal, that I'm going to move forward with opportunities just like a company would move forward with opportunities to explore other things outside of maybe their relationship with me even. You consider all of the layoffs that are happening right now, like there are a lot of decisions that are quote unquote not personal, right? They're business decisions. And so I think that was huge for me. I'm also a big security gal. I love having financial security. I love knowing
Yeah.
what tomorrow's going to look like. I love being able to see into the future because I like to be able to have control of things in my future. And so there's a lot of risk, especially as a woman, to say, you know what, I'm going to take a risk on myself and do something that may not pay off and may put me in a situation where I might be struggling emotionally or financially. And so that's always very tricky too. And I think we do have a lot of those like internal scripts around wanting security and wanting to take the path of least resistance in some ways as women. And I think that we are like shifting that a lot, which I think is really great. But it's intrinsic sometimes, and you have to talk to yourself about it and understand like, why am I feeling this way? Where is this coming from? I constantly had to tell myself, you are worth the risk, especially with this most recent career transition. I've been learning design for the past couple years. And that was a situation where customer service to career coaching, it was like, it was a transition, but it it didn't break me down the way that moving from career coaching to product design, like, really had to break down my ego a bit and humble me quite a bit to be able to make that transition. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about the challenges that you faced with making this more recent transition and like how did you get through those?
Yeah, I so a little bit of background. I'd been doing career coaching for a little while. I was with the company Pathrise and I'd moved into a management role. And when I moved into management, they said, hey, I want you to support the design students that are working with us, basically to help our design students get jobs. And I was a manager, so I was helping other career coaches assist in the design space for assisting designers to get jobs. So I was talking a lot with designers and chatting with them and trying to understand portfolios and trying to understand this kind of strange world of product design. And I took some courses and light bulbs were going off in my head. Oh my goodness, this is cool. These are really fun people. I like hanging out with and talking with these individuals. It seems like they're doing really interesting work. And so I started just like learning to supplement my management of this team and my coaching with the students. And then eventually it became a more concrete thing. Like, I'm actually going to learn this. And I actually think I want to transition my career to product design. At the time when I was working at Pathrise, one way that I was able to get some experience was to let people know that I'm going on this journey and I'm learning design. And I essentially said, hey, if you need any work done on the design side, like, I'd be happy to step in and help out. And luckily, they were really supportive, and I got some projects through working with Pathrise. And so initially, it was this space where I was learning on the job and I was still doing my main job functions. And that felt relaxed and nice because I'm able to learn. And this is a job that I'm getting paid to be a career coach, but I'm also learning design. That's so cool. But there came this point where I realized, okay, this is not a space where I'm going to be able to be a full-time designer. I'm always going to be able to do design work, which is great, but I'm not going to be able to get the design pay. I'm not going to be able to get the full-time experience that I really need. And that was the tricky spot to say, whew, all right, do I quit my job and lean into design fully? Do I try to take a boot camp and learn design on the side, like after work? Do I try to learn this on my own? How do I do this? And after doing a lot of research on it and talking to a lot of people about it, I chose to step away from the role that I'd been at for a couple years and lean into the design job search full time. And I thought to myself, I look back and I'm like, man, you were silly. But I thought to myself, it won't be that hard because I'm a career coach. Like, this will be fine. This is fun. And then eventually I felt that meme with the dog sitting at the table and there are fires all around him. And this is fine. That's how I felt in my personal job search for design in a lot of moments. It was constant iterating. It was constantly trying to improve my resume, trying to network, I created 2 portfolios just so that I could get some more traction, applying to hundreds of jobs, getting tons of rejection, getting very few interviews and then not moving forward to the next round. It was very demoralizing, to say the least. And so I was put on the opposite end. Here I am, someone who's normally being a cheerleader for individuals who are trying to move through their own job search. Now I'm on the other side. And I knew what to expect, but it was eye-opening how emotionally and even physically draining it can be. All the networking, the rejection, a lot. So there were definitely a lot of challenges just in the whole process.
And so, what are some tools that you used to get through the emotional and even the physical exhaustion that you were feeling?
Um, so tools, I mean, can we count my therapist as a tool?
Yeah.
Um, my therapist was a huge help to me. I didn't get too stressed and I didn't talk about my job search too much in therapy, but
Mm.
I am someone who processes a lot and thinks through things a lot. And I needed to talk through a lot of other things going on in my life. And I think being in therapy allowed me that space to really dissect what I was going through in my life, being in my job search or in relationships or just with my emotions, how I'm feeling, my mental health, my exhaustion around certain things. So I think therapy was a really incredible tool. Um, I think that for me, boundaries around my time was really important. Like, I remember there were whole months where I would send 50 networking requests via LinkedIn every single week saying, hey, I'm an early career designer. I'd love to chat with you about what I'm working on and if there are any opportunities available. It's a really tough job market. And as it turns out, designers are really generous with their time. So a lot of people would respond back. And then I'm having 10 networking conversations every week with new people and gathering new information. And it's just exhausting. As much as I really appreciate and respect the time, there were moments where I had to say, okay, I'm not going to do any networking for the next couple weeks because I just need a break. So that was something that was helpful for me. I'm pretty big into outdoor activities. So just using that like physical exertion to melt away some of the stress and exhaustion that I was feeling was really good. I'm a big like skier and rock climber. And I just, any way that I could get out and just be in nature, I feel like it checks a lot of boxes, like being physical and being in nature and just having that kind of flow state for me that separated me from that. Um, I also really worked on sleep hygiene a lot. I figured out the best way for me to fall asleep and stay asleep, which was huge. Yeah, I don't know. Are they tools? I'm not sure. Were they things that I really had to dial in and look at and examine? Yeah, those are some of the big ones for me, I think, to help me stay really grounded throughout the process.
I like that. And when I was going through my networking process and job applications, it was a different time for the industry. So it wasn't probably nearly as crazy as your experience, but there were a lot of similarities. And I would say that I would agree with you that I would reach out to people and ask for their time. And I met so many wonderful, generous people who were ready and willing to talk to me about the industry, talk to me about their experience, give me advice, review my portfolio, and even like the doing this kind of networking got me my first gig
Totally.
because I said I was reaching out to some people in a company, a specific company I just applied to. And one of them replied back to me. He's like, yeah, let's jump on a call. No big deal. And I was like, oh, okay. I don't know you from Adam, but let's do it. And
Oh,
we
man.
got on this call and we just chatted a little bit. And then he goes, I have this project that I need some help with. Would you like to help me? And I was like, yeah,
Like, you're
yes.
glowing. You're like, absolutely.
Yeah. And at that time I had like very minimal experience, but I guess the conversation, he saw something in me that made him extend the offer. And so that was my first gig,
That's so
and
cool.
it's all because of reaching out to people and the fact that they were so willing to be a part of my journey and
Well,
helping me progress.
that's what happened with me for Encino, and coming
Yeah.
into this role. I was doing these my network outreach strategy, right? Sending like 50 requests. And I started honing in on Salt Lake because I was like, Salt Lake has a really large design community. And I feel like we've got something in common, right? We both live in the same place. I figured that people would be more likely to chat with me knowing that we're from the same city. And so I started doing that. And um, I connected with someone named Nathan who was really awesome. And we had a 30-minute conversation. And I think at the end of my conversation, I said, hey, if I have any questions about design systems, can I reach out to you? And because I was working on something for my role for that. And he said, yeah, of course. And the way that I had been doing these networking conversations was that I was really meticulous. I would log every single networking conversation. I would take notes. I would make a Google Doc for it. And then I had an Excel spreadsheet and I would put the person's name and their email and where they work and link to the doc. And I grew this list, this huge list of people that I've been chatting with. And every time I would have a question, I would just blanket email different people and say, hey, this is
Yeah.
what I'm working on. If you have any insight, I'd love to hear it. Or if you want to jump on a call. And this one person kept just like saying yeah and like showing up, and we'd have these great conversations, and I learned so much. And then one day I was like, oh hey, do you mind looking at my resume? And he took one look at it and he was like, this is what's keeping you from getting at interviews. This is it.
Wow.
And I was like, what? Because here I am, a career coach. So I'm like
Yeah.
I'm a little hurt to hear this. Okay. I'm like, come on now. But then we worked on this resume together. And then this is the same person who told me to change my portfolio. And I made like a brand new portfolio in a new tool. Just over the course of us having these conversations together over months, one day he messaged me and said, hey, a role opened up and I think you should apply for it. And here I am thinking, oh my goodness, this person has given me so much of their time and energy and has helped me so much. And they're helping me again. You know what I mean? And it just goes to show that those relationships are infinitely important. And
Absolutely.
I think that's something that people struggle with is networking too, and like how to maintain those relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a few thoughts I have on that. But yeah, one of the things, like, Nathan's so awesome, but he's such an advocate for things or people that he's passionate about. And so, like, on our end of things, he was always like, well, Jules, I'm like, bringing out, he's like, I mean, I don't mean to sway like the, and it's just so funny like that. But
Oh,
he was your advocate. He was in your corner.
yeah.
And it, because of that relationship that you built with him. And he's just, I think she'd just be a great fit and la la la. And so, um, but it also makes me think of like having someone in your corner like that, because that was what Corey was for me. Corey's our manager. And I met him at a meetup and spoke up once, like asked a question. And then he reached out to me and was like, we have this like spot open. Would you like to interview?
Whoa.
I was really impressed by what you said in the meetup. And I'm like, really? Like, what do I even say? Like, I don't even know. And then from then on, he was such a proponent of giving me a shot that I was able to get in to the company as an intern,
Mm-hmm.
because he was like, yeah, let's go. Let's do it. And he was the one internally saying, hey, we need to hire her. We need to hire her. So
Yeah.
these are like two really amazing examples of networking and building relationships and showing up authentically, right? Showing up as yourself. And I think it goes back to this idea you mentioned earlier, where you're like, early on, you thought, "Oh, I don't have any skill. I don't really have anything in particular that I'm really good at." I think that's one of the things that I've really been working on, is trying to recognize what my strengths are,
Mm-hmm.
because there are a lot of things that are just like, this is just how we live our lives, that we don't see them as strengths. And so getting curious about what are these things and how am I using them in just like everyday normal like experience. I don't know.
Yeah. I personally can be a little more tuned into the things that I'm not so good at. My weaknesses, the things that I wish I had a little bit more dialed. And one thing that I did during that time when I was really unsure what my skills were, I asked other people. I called my mom first and I was like, Mom, what do you think I'm good at? Or what are traits that I have that you think are really positive? And I also was like, I'll share what I think I really love about you too, like your positive traits. And so I did that with my mom, I remember, my brother. I did that with a few people that I worked with as well, just to, give me more insight into how other people see me, because sometimes you just don't see yourself in the same way. And when you are struggling, to understand the value that you bring, or maybe you are working through some self-value, self-worth items for how you are as a person, how you're showing up, like talking to other people and like giving them space to hype you up a little bit is like really nice to do. And it's vulnerable, but like I was happy to share. So it was a fun thing for me to try too.
Yeah, I do think that we need that outside perspective often to ground us and to see things in a light that we would have never seen otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's important, I think, having some kind of support system, right? It doesn't have to be a huge support system, but just at least one person that you can really like have those vulnerable conversations with and that can really help you
Yeah.
with shifting your perspective on yourself. Ultimately, like you said, we all live inside our minds so much and don't really know what other people see in us.
Yeah. I think that's true. And I feel like having more positive talk about yourself comes with time. But there was a point for me where I was having a hard time thinking through what those skills and strengths were. It's a nice like stepping off point. And now I've come a really long way, and I've actually done quite a few hard things, like challenging things to get me to a point to say, oh, okay, based on my experiences, I know where my strengths lie now. But yeah, it's interesting to see that a lot of it happened for me over the last 5 years. So even through part of my 20s, I wasn't too sure. But yeah, I feel like 30s is a total glow up, honestly. So like for most people, I think you just know so much more about yourself when you get through your 20s and you enter your 30s, and you just start to realize a bit more about who you are. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'm learning more and more that with age comes the wisdom and that the perspective. Like you can look back on your life and recognize more things than you once, uh,
Mhm. See patterns a
interesting.
lot more clearly, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, and I think that comes with time. And I'm someone who has to learn from their mistakes. Unfortunately, I can't learn from other people's mistakes. I have to have my own special set of mistakes to learn from.
Yeah.
Yes, I do need age to really solidify some things. Oh,
I did want to ask you a bit more about your support system. I think it was when you were talking about how you started that job, that new job, and you were making more money, but you only stayed for 3 months because you were miserable. And then you're like, hey, I think I'm going to do this. What was your support system been like? Who's in your support system? And like, how did they help you even when you were doing something new? Wait, what are you doing?
yeah. My previous person who I was with was a huge support to me at that time. I was like, I don't want to continue going to this job. Like it's so terrible. This is not good for me. And he was just like, quit. I shouldn't be there if they're acting like that. I was like, oh, what? Like you could just quit a job without anything lined up. Is it the smartest thing to do? Wow, questionable. But I did have a little bit of, I had some money saved up. I got through it and decided this is actually something that I probably need to do. And at that point, I was able to get support. I moved in with him, so didn't have to worry so much about where I was living at the time. And I think that with my family, things are a little bit more interesting. Anytime I have a space where I'm in flux or taking a risk, like for moving into design, some days I would just call my mom and I would be like, Mom, this is not going so well. Like, I'm getting rejected a lot. This is not feeling great for me. And my mom would be like, you should just come move back to Texas and live with us. And then all your problems will be solved. And I'm like, Mom, I need you to I need you to hear what I'm saying, as I am being vulnerable and I love you, but my solution here is not to move to Texas and stop this process, right? My solution is to be resilient and be determined and continue on this path because it's what I've set out to do. And I need your support in that way to just say, you got it. It's okay. Like it's a small thing, like just move on. And my mom would say, if you ever, but you do always have a place to live here. Just saying. Took a couple tries, but now whenever I call my mom and I tell her maybe about some new thing that I'm working on or some risk that I'm taking career-wise, she's like, well, I'll be thinking about you and I hope everything works out and I'll say a prayer for you. And that's like perfect. That's what I want. And that's the perfect support. Another thing that happened whenever I quit my job last year to really lean into trying to find something full time in design, I had saved up quite a bit of money, but I was still scared because the job market was not incredible. It was really hard to find roles. There were a lot of people in the market. It was pretty saturated. People were having a hard time finding jobs. And I knew how much financial leeway I had, but I also knew like there was a small chance that I might run out of money in this process.
Yeah.
And I remember being so scared. And I texted my cousin Chas. I said, hey, Chas is like, she's a VP of product. She's like really doing her thing. She's in the cybersecurity space. And she's just got it figured out, in my opinion. And I texted her and I was like, Chas, I'm going to try to make a career change right now. And I'm about to jump off the diving board into the deep end. It would make me feel amazing if something happens and I need a little bit of help. Be it emotional support, be it, hey, let's try to figure something out for you, be it maybe even financial help. Are you open to like being that person for me if it comes down to it? And I like sat on that text for hours because I didn't really want to send it. I really didn't want to do it, but I did. And she texted back almost immediately and was like, girl, I got you. Like, it's okay. Like, you're going to figure it out, first of all. But also, if something happens and you need something, please don't hesitate to ask. And that was enough for me to just like clear my mind to say, okay, I'm ready to do this. And I never ended up having to ask for help, which is great. And I probably never needed to send that text in the first place, right? Because I was probably going to be fine. But just knowing that she was there if I needed it was just like something that kind of got me through some of the darker days. And that was really amazing.
I love that. I think that's really powerful for people to reflect on what is that one thing that is holding you back that would just make everything just feel more doable, and to have someone that you could reach out to like that. And I think it really does come back to the idea of getting an outsider's perspective, because you're like in your head about all the insecurities and the anxieties of taking this big leap. And then having that person just be like, first of all, you're going to be fine. But second of all, like, I'm here for you. And just that reassurance that, okay, I am going to be fine. Like, I got this. She's right. I'm going to do this. Just that outsider perspective really helping you focus and realign, I think.
Yeah, it definitely did. And since then, I have met so many incredible designers too, just in my process of trying to learn more and network. And I've been able to reach out to many people when I just wanted to cry and just have someone to talk on the phone with for a little while or chat through my most recent rejection after an onsite or whatever it is. So it's just like having those individuals who can make a little bit of space for you, I think is so important. Um, yeah, it was a process, but I'm really glad that I have the support system that I do have. Mhm.
Are you still doing any career coaching?
I do a bit of career coaching on the side. Usually, what happens is if someone reaches out to me looking for something specific, I'll chat with them and have a consultation and see how I can help because I do know that it's a skill that I have. And I know that it's a way that I can make a bit of extra money and be able to chat with people and have those conversations. But what I've been doing a bit more lately is just, a lot of younger, like more junior designers have reached out to me and just like having quick chats with them about struggles that I had or ways that they might be able to improve their process, their application process, or their resume or their portfolio. Sometimes I have the emotional and like time capacity to do it. Other times I don't, but I have felt very motivated around giving back a little bit this year just to help others. And so, yeah, if someone reaches out to me about coaching, I definitely have conversations with people, but I'm not like actively putting myself out there. But yeah.
One other thing I wanted you to maybe speak to a little bit was you posted recently on LinkedIn about your experience of getting hired and asking the manager, why did you get the job? Kind of thing. Do you mind speaking to that and the perspective that you shared in your post?
Yeah. So this was actually for my previous role before Encino. But basically, my post was saying that I asked my manager, like, I'd just gotten this job. I was really excited. I had fixed up my resume. I had fixed up my portfolio. I did like a design challenge for them. I did a couple interviews with them. And I end up getting hired. And I'm like, yeah, this is so amazing. What did I do? What did I do to stand out here? Was it my excellent skills that I sent forward with my design challenge? Was it my interviewing on X, Y, or Z? And so I really wanted to hear from my manager, why did you hire me? And it was so funny to me because he did not even bat an eye. And he's, you're a great culture fit. It's a really good culture fit. And that was it. He was like, period, we're done here. Nothing else to add. My mouth dropped. I was like, that was his answer. So I wasn't going to push more. That was literally what he said. And I thought to myself at first, this is a little sad to hear. Like, I thought it was going to be something about my technical skills or me as a designer, because I'd been putting so much time and like energy into building those skills. And for it to come down to just being a culture fit felt it was a little unexpected. But for me, realizing that being a culture fit is important and that we know, and I know as a career coach, that a lot of times companies are bringing people on based on their hireability and how well they'll fit with the team. Like being able to answer the question, do I want this person to work on a team with me? And saying yes is a pretty important question that a lot of hiring managers will ask. So it was just funny to me that that was his main reason for bringing me on. But yeah, culture is super important.
Yeah. And I just wanted you to share that story because I think it's such a great example of showing up as yourself and the right people will find you or you'll find the right people. I think that's what a culture fit is all about. Is this a good space for me to be working in? Am I going to fit into that culture? Because the people you work with are just are almost the make or break out of like how well it's going to go anyway. And to always remember, like, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you, and you want it to be like mutual.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think that in a lot of ways, especially in the design space right now, it's interesting because I have this mindset almost of like beggars can't be choosers. Like you have to, as someone who's more early career, more junior, you have to take what's given to you in some ways. Um, and do you think though that this was a rude awakening for me as a designer? Like my first couple roles, I did not get the pay or the salary that I was really hoping for, especially having gone through a year-and-a-half long career transition journey only to receive a salary that was quite a bit lower. But I do want to say that in terms of career transitions and opportunities, it does get better. And eventually you will have empowerment. You will be able to choose for yourself if the culture is, if you're feeling really great about the culture, if you're feeling really great about the company. And if there are things that you're like, you know what, I'm going to take this role, even if maybe the culture isn't quite a fit for me, or even if the money is not quite a fit for me, just know that it gets better. And for me and the information that I chatted with quite a few people about this, because it happened to me a couple times. And several people told me, just do it. It'll get better. Don't worry. And yeah, I would probably extend the same advice on that front because eventually you will have more empowerment of what you can accept and what you will do as your career as a designer. But at first, you have to roll with the punches, so to speak, just a little bit.
Yeah. No, that's good advice. There's balance and it all depends on where you are in your life and your experience and what opportunities present themselves. Yeah. We're resilient and we learn along the way, and then we're better informed for the next opportunity.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I think resilience is a huge thing. My biggest thing in my whole process was just, I feel like what separated me from other people is just not giving up. I was just like, I'm not going to quit. I just didn't have it in my vocabulary. And so I think that was huge for me.
Yeah. That's a great reminder just to keep showing up and keep going, keep doing your thing, because not everybody is going to stick it out long enough. So you're going to rise above as long as you keep showing up. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today, Jules. I've really enjoyed our conversation and learning more about where you've come from. And like I mentioned, you're newer on the team, so I only have a snapshot. So now I know a little bit more, and I'm so happy to know you. You've been such a light and you're just so vibrant. And I feel like you fit in right away, but it's because you're very compassionate and thoughtful and you want to get to know people. And so you do the work to make sure that happens. And so I appreciate that.
Thank you. And yeah, no, that's honestly, I feel super grateful to be around such smart and passionate people with design and all other areas. Like, I think it's super cool that you do this podcast, and now I'm on it. I can't get over it. It's so cool.
Bye. I would like to thank Jules for being on the podcast. It was such a pleasure talking to her, getting to know her a little bit better, and just enjoying good conversation. I think it's always really interesting when stories parallel or people have similar experiences. And I felt like there were a lot of things that she talked about when it came to her experience, job searching, figuring out what she wanted to do next, and similar experiences regarding networking, building relationships, being a good culture fit, and finding a place where they value who you are in addition to what you can do. So I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I did. If so, please leave a review. Your reviews help spread the word about the podcast and allow people to better find it. I appreciate your support. Thank you for listening. Please join us again next week for another incredible episode. I'm your host, Brittany Cates, and together, let's shift your day job.